to see. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we're supposed to be live.
Oh.
Are we live?
Hopefully your mic's
and
working.
We're early.
Yeah.
And yes, hopefully my mic is
Yeah.
working. My apologies to everyone.
Yeah, that was.
So you get a little bit of bonus material from us here today. We're like 3 minutes early, and I'm banking these minutes now. So we're literally almost like a half hour early today. Does it work that way?
No, I mean, I think you're probably we're about you get about 6 minutes banked. So I'll give
Really,
you that.
that's it.
Yeah, I'll give you that, man. We're on
That's
lawyer
it.
time. We're on lawyer time.
All right.
Yeah.
So anyone that when you initially dial in, and if you can't hear me, let me know. We had a little audio issue with my mic last week, but I believe we're spot on and good to go this time. So I got to keep my fingers off the microphone.
Don't touch.
You know what I mean? I can't touch my own microphone. Like go
Don't
figure.
don't
right?
touch the mic, man.
Go figure.
Just keep your hands to
Yeah. So okay. So we were laughing off, not laughing, but we were talking before we started here that I said I wanted to just give a little nod to First Lady Rosalind Carter passed today, and Rocco's like, I don't know who she is. I know who she is, but I don't know anything of her.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
It was before his time.
Yeah, I'm younger than you, man.
Man.
That's why I like coming here. I'm the old,
you feel
I'm
great
the oldest in the office. When I come here, I'm like, oh, I'm actually younger than someone.
Well,
This is great.
she reminds me of the era that before again, there was less media. So I'm not saying the humans were better then than they are now. I don't really believe that. But it appeared that we weren't so caustic to each other generally because things move slower. Sure. And I think we were able to for lack of a better phrase, have more focus in our worlds. So we could get dialed in on someone and we felt like we knew each other a little better, or we knew our celebrities a little better. Maybe not the personal stuff, but we just, especially our politicians, like we had a different view of them. We weren't getting inundated with every little nuance.
Yeah.
So the lore of and the prestige of the office sometimes would overshadow what else you didn't know about them. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that's interesting. So I would think that you would know less about them, and because now there's so much information, access to so much information. We know
does that really mean we know a lot about them?
Well, I mean, again, define know, right? So it's like we have more information about them, but do we intimately know the inner workings of their mind or how their personality is composed? Probably not. Probably it's about the same, but yeah, I think we have more factual information.
Hopefully,
hopefully it's factual, but I think there's just access to more information. I mean, think about it like, before social media, right? Now I can figure out, like, take sports, right? If I'm a sports fan. So when I was a kid, like, I had no idea the equipment players use unless I watched that player and actually looked at the player's glove and said, oh, that's a Mizuno, or, that's an Easton. Like, you kind of knew. Now you can just go online and search, go to their social media profiles and buy the actual glove because they get a piece of it. So there's so much more access now. I mean, it is. It really is. I mean, it's capitalism at its finest. But think about that. I mean, when we were kids, I remember getting the East Bay magazine and with all like the equipment. Yeah. And that's when you found the new equipment. Like who was using it. But
that was
like
before the web.
Before the web, yeah. Like new bats and new gloves and cleats.
So you suckered your folks into buying you all that top end shit too.
I was never one of those like top end bats. Like I was never. I think I had like one or two bats my entire childhood. I just used whatever the team had.
Well, they were cheaper then too.
And again, like I
have
never
you bought a bat recently?
I mean, for my daughter when she played softball. I mean, it was like $200 for a softball bat for like a 10-year-old.
That's light. That's light.
I mean, it's crazy.
That's light.
But I understand because the technology. I watched a video where they had this guy. He was literally taking bats from like the 70s to today and like hitting the ball, like, and the difference was astounding.
Oh, cause like almost like a golf driver, probably.
It was like just seeing like the ceramic Easton from the 90s. Then it was like the stuff today, like hitting the ball like 50 feet farther.
Is that good for the game?
Makes me more excited. Well, I mean, they don't use aluminum bats now. It's all wooden bats anyways. But like, as a kid, it was exciting.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, wooden bats are wooden bats.
Dude, I'm so old that when aluminum bats came out in the early 70s, they used to say Alcoa on the side. I'm not shitting you.
That's where the metal's made.
And you knew the length of the bat by the color. Like red aluminum was like a 30, the blue was 32. Yeah. And the green was 28.
That's interesting.
And the coach had a bag for the entire team when you threw that shit in the corner and you just grabbed the bat. And
I mean,
no one could afford their own bats.
Yeah. I mean, when you were kids, like you literally, like now every kid has their own helmet. Like we all got
Batting.
lice because we used the same helmets. I mean, it was literally
I
like
probably spent $700 in batting gloves for my kid over the course of like 10 years of
yeah,
child
but
baseball.
think about it. Like think about when we were younger. Like there was no face masks, and the team had like 4 helmets, and like you hoped your head fit. I had a big head. I still have a big head. It was like I always hoped there was one helmet in that bag that fucking fit my head, and luckily there always was. But there was like 4 helmets. So guess what? If there was 3 guys on base and a batter, you were on deck without a helmet, and you hope the dude that came in, had a helmet that fit you. That's what it was like. I mean, times are different now, man. I don't know how we got on this topic, but
we started out with the death of Rosalind Carter. We ended up with baseball. Well, did you share cups?
No.
Yeah, we didn't do that either. But I've heard the generation before me, like when cups became a thing, like for child sports, kids didn't have them. They were like one cup, kid would bat and he put it in. He get the first base, they pull it out and give it
wearing
to, give it
to be honest.
I
I don't remember even wearing a cup. I played third base. I don't remember wearing
catcher,
a cup.
buddy, believe me.
Well, yeah, you have me as a catcher, yeah, but I don't even remember wearing one, honestly.
Oh God! It started out with Rosalind Carter.
Yeah.
All I was going to say was that yes, I guess in theory you would say that we know more about our celebrities and politicians today because of the web, but do we really? I guess maybe what I was trying to say was that we chose as a society maybe to give a little more reverence to the positions and
I agree with
the
that.
prestige of it all.
Yeah,
and maybe not worry about the
there's more decorum.
Bingo.
Yeah,
It meant something then.
It did, absolutely. And I think it still does to some people. I just think society's gotten so out of fucking whack.
Yeah.
Like just so I mean, really, like it's so
we're gonna so on that theme, we're gonna say that for the end of the show.
Sure.
We're gonna ask more broad-based questions.
Toss
Okay,
it
so
up.
let's talk about some of the things that and again, it wasn't a big news week I didn't see. I do want to talk to you about the war a little bit. It seems like Hamas is giving up more and more prisoners or hostages as this goes along. Although when you start diving into the behind the scenes there, it looks like that there was no real plan on their behalf. They got they took these hostages and then they ended up going to another group and another group had these and like, it's all spread out.
Yeah.
Really, it's from the outside in, it looks like it's disorganized. Yeah. My question is, do you think that this was part of the original quote unquote plan, or do you think that the IDF has beat them into submission militarily to the point where they're maybe either acting out of desperation or they're in a position where they're getting squeezed and they don't want to continue bombardment?
That's a good question. Again, my speculative answer would be the latter. Like I think they've just been beaten down. Because Israel basically said it's on. There was no mercy. Like that's what they said from the beginning. So I don't know if that's what they're just like, okay, enough's enough. Like we've got to start, saving grace, or I don't know. Like I don't know enough about wartime strategy and this whole thing that's going on to intelligently give. I would like to speculate that they've just been beaten down. And they're eventually going to be beaten into submission. So I like to think.
I'd like to think that too. I'm hoping that's the case.
But again, like there's many things. I don't know. This could all be a strategy that none of us are even paying. It could be the sleight of hand strategy. Like, look, we're giving up hostages. We're giving up. We're backing down. Then something happens over here. No one's paying attention over here. Yeah, that's the stuff that worries me.
Well, there's a theory there that that they basically. This was purely a terrorist act by what they did. I mean, yes, it's our definition of terrorism in the Western world. Yes, but it's purely a terroristic act, and there's not much behind that. It wasn't like there was a long-term strategy here,
right?
And Israel has kind of like taken this heavy military might toward them, and it hasn't gone well. And the only hope they have is if Iran would enter this somehow as to do that. But Iran has not to this point. They've harassed us a little bit, which they've always kind of done that. And we've acted out to try to as a deterrent. But to this point, Iran has not jumped in here with gusto and made this a regional conflict. To this point,
and that's the part I can't figure out. Like what is, because there's got to be an ulterior motive behind all this, right?
Unless it was pure terrorism.
I mean, maybe it was. Maybe that's all it was. But I feel like there's something that that just doesn't seem like that's the case. Like part of me, like again, like is it just it was time for a war? Like we haven't had a war in how many years? And like companies needed money. And like that's the part that's scary. Like I don't know that that's the case.
Yeah,
but there's so many people that say
but
that.
how can you not ask yourself that question?
Right. So I mean, like when you go through an entire presidency, there's no wars. Then all of a sudden we get into a new presidency and we have a bunch of wars now. And it's like who's controlling that? I don't know. Like I don't know enough about that, but it's just it's it makes you think. It makes you wonder.
I think there has been a couple Americans released now finally, but there wasn't any Americans released up front. And I think there's still quite a few that have not been released. And I just wonder, like, how does that decision work? Like, how's that? Like, how are they coming to? I mean, you would almost think they would release the Americans first.
Yeah, I mean, but again,
we would be the bigger threat.
Well,
right?
take it back to your original point. Like, if it was pure terrorism, there's no strategy. It's just like, let's grab this person. Like, if there's no real strategy to what they're doing, then there's not going to be a strategy to how they release hostages either, right?
Okay.
If it's a pure act of terrorism and it's just like you said, it's just they've just been beaten down because they had no strategy, then there's no strategy as to the release of hostages either. It's just pure.
You look reactionary.
Yeah, it's reactionary. Okay. There's no strategy behind. Like I don't know. Maybe that's the case.
Well, I know people aren't going to believe this. I'm not a Biden fan at all, but I am glad to this point. He hasn't started World War III.
I agree.
So
I mean, absolutely. I mean, they've kept us out of it. They've kept us out of it, and I hope they continue to.
Yeah. If we're getting the straight skinny, I mean, who knows, right? I mean, you have to be skeptical.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. Right. There's a lot of things to be skeptical. There's again, like we talk about all the time, there's a lot of things to be skeptical about right now. But I would think coming into an election year, they're not going to want to go into war. I think they're going to do whatever they can to keep us out of that conflict in an election year.
So let's talk about that. Boy, I cannot believe it. This is something we did not talk about before the show in our we have a little strategy meeting for every show. We don't want to come in here and make complete buffoons of ourselves. But I didn't mention this to you, and you kind of went right there. Like, I am in the real estate industry. It's no big surprise, and interest rates have been really high.
Yeah,
which it isn't just our industry feeling the effect of interest rates, right? Naturally,
it's everywhere.
But it certainly has put a damper on the home buying and indirectly the home selling as well too.
Absolutely.
When I was young, growing up in a little mill town, all the pot dealers used to say, there's a point to this, I promise you, they never wanted to do a lot of business.
Okay.
Tell the circles I ran in during an election year. And I, as a little younger person, I learned that the reason why they would always say is, well, it's elections coming up, and they're going to put extra police out there. So they're going to be, they're actually going to try to
clean up the streets.
Well, or make a statement or or create some bragging rights or something. And the pot dealers kind of knew. So ever since I was young, I was always on my brain, like, okay, during election year or the year leading up to elections, like, watch what happens in the world.
Okay.
And I've gone back and you can trace the starts of war or the bombings of places.
Okay.
It's just fascinating what happens the year leading up to a major election.
Yeah.
Every 4 years. My question is, do you believe in that generally? Do you think that there's credence in there maybe at some point? And if that's the case, like we're getting into a new year, I believe that interest rates are going to miraculously start diving, which they're starting to now.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, and that's a market condition, but we're all fools to believe that market conditions cannot be manipulated by our political system.
Correct.
Do you see other aspects of society that are going to get miraculously better over the next 7-8 months?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, other parts of society, I don't know. I do think interest rates will probably start coming down, or they'll say the economy is getting better, or interest rates are coming down. It's quelling inflation. Okay, bullshit. It hasn't done anything for inflation. I think
gas prices are coming down.
I guess they are.
Even if they aren't in a big way, they're making notice. The media, certain media is making
anything that's going to benefit the current party in power, they're going to make a stink of or make a big deal of.
Correct.
Do I think? Yeah, I think. Look, they're going to try and keep. Here's the way I look at it: the way the economy has been in the economic conditions right now. If we went into a war, like next year, they'd be out of power. People would just be like, we can't. Like, no, like we need someone else in here. Like, it's just the economy's
like
bad.
troops on like boots on the ground.
Yeah, like it's going to cost money. Taxes are going to go up. How do we fund this war? So they're going to do whatever they can.
Okay.
To I believe to keep us out of war. The problem I have is they still keep giving money, and it's like, where's the money coming from?
Naturally,
right? They just keep printing money. It's like, okay, like what in the actual fuck? Like, why aren't we doing shit in our own country to clean this place up? Why are we giving money to support these other countries? Like, that's the problem I have, and I think they're going to do everything, I think, to keep the waters calm over the next 11 months, 10 months, to keep it as calm as possible. And that's going to be an interesting territory.
How they maneuver that.
It's going to be very interesting. I don't know if the world will let them do that.
Yeah. So when you take that, that burden, put the context that they're trying to wrap Biden up in bubble wrap, literally, for keeping him from hurting himself or falling over or looking like he's compromised. Right.
Yeah.
So you have that going on. There eventually, I'm guessing, will be a Republican Democrat debate, at least one televised.
They have 3 schedules. I mean, anybody's agreed to them yet.
Whether they all happen, I don't know.
That's a great question.
Unless, okay, so hear me out.
Okay.
I don't want to turn this into a conspiracy show, but hey, it's just 2023.
Hey, we're here.
Okay, to tie this in, what could be coming in the next couple of months? There is a influenza episode right now in China. I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm not dispute. I'm not stating this as I believe in this. I'm saying that it is being reported that in China there is a concentrated. They're not calling it certainly not calling it a pandemic. They're just calling that there is a instance of a lot of child respiratory influenza-like illnesses. And it's starting to get pressed, where the World Health Organization, that noble organization, is now elevating the concern of it. I heard it actually on the way to the studio tonight. My question to you is, do you think there's a potential for that to raise its head?
That would fucking backfire, in my opinion. People will not put up with that shit again. I think people got really smart. I think in certain instances, I don't think people will put up with, oh, by the way, another pandemic happens to be right before the election, like last time. It's pretty bad. Let's wear masks again. Let's fucking mail in our votes. Like, it'll be good in about a year and a half from now. Like, no one's gonna put up with that shit again. Like, we did it once. We fell. I'm not saying we fell, but there was something.
I don't even think my liberal friends will put up with that again.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think both sides. Like, I truly believe that. I think it got to a point where it's like, come on. Like, one, it's the winter. This is when flu season is. Like, it's flu season. That's what happens, right? 2, not saying we were stupid. We were fed so much information. It was mass psychosis. We were in fear. We were stirred up into fear, and we were not thinking clearly. I wasn't thinking clearly. The fact that I'm sitting like, oh, fuck, I don't know what to do. Like, should I leave the house? I'm a logical, reasonable person, and I'm questioning, like, are we supposed to spray our groceries? Like, what the fuck?
Arrows in the grocery store.
I mean, right? Like, that was the most ridiculous thing. But for a moment there, I'm like, okay, I can follow rules if I think it benefits society, and I'll do that. But then it got to a point where I'm like, okay, logic doesn't make sense anymore.
Right.
And no one's telling me, no one's given a good explanation. They just keep kicking the can and saying, well, because of this, well, I got to do this, I got to do this, but why? No one's answering the question why.
Well, no one even had the stones to even admit that they just don't know.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to do. If you said I don't know, I'm like, okay, I'm more inclined to believe that and listen, because I'm like, if you don't know, who the fuck knows? I should probably listen. I should probably just agree with you.
1,000,000%.
But now it's like, I don't think people will put up with it again. I think even if it is something that's truly real and bad,
wouldn't that be a bitch?
People will be like, fuck it. Like, not doing it. I know people in my sphere that are on both sides of this argument that I know for certain would be like, I'm not fucking dealing with it. I'm done. I did it for too long. It destroyed certain things in my life. It took years away from me. I missed things. I'm not doing it
for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like, people aren't going to do it.
Yeah, and again, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it's being reported on all networks that this is going on right now in China. And I'm just saying, because this is kind of how COVID started in the beginning. You would hear rumblings that something was going. It wasn't like it happened overnight. There was a slow build to it in the summer and the fall of 2020.
Fall of 19,
excuse
and then into the coming into the winter. St. Patty's Day week is when they shut down.
Exactly, pretty much exactly 4 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much this exact same time frame 4 years ago. Yes, exactly.
I mean, there was even a virologist, I think, that was being interviewed, a Chinese virologist on CNN that was trying to dispel the concern today, just stating that we believe that this is partially a result of the fact that these children for the past couple of years have been sequestered and kept away from each other. And it compromised their immunity. So there's a level of compromised immunity, which is
you don't fucking say. Like we all said that. Like I'm a fucking lawyer. I know nothing about the medical science, but I'm pretty sure I've been told over life, like you want to expose your kids to germs. That's how they build immunities, right? I mean, when you think about it,
I mean,
like that's the problem.
We were actually, I'm so old that when I was a child, we were actually sent to other people's houses whose kids did have the chicken pox, so we could catch it. That's I mean, that's not just the unique thing with the McKennas. Believe me, I mean that's what parents did
because you wanted to
get
it over with.
60s and early 70s. They would, you go and play.
Once you had it, you were done with it. I had it twice. I had chicken pox twice in my life.
Well, you're special.
Apparently, so. I literally had it. I had a mild case when I was little, and then I got it again when I was 12.
Really?
Yeah, I swear to God, I had 2 cases of chicken pox in my life.
How's that possible?
Well, I think because when I had it when I was younger, it was a very mild case, so I might not have built up a full immunity to it. And I got it again when I remember I was like, I think it was 12. Like in the summer, I got it. Sucked.
Have you seen any of the testimony in this? I think it's the Senate. Yeah, it's in the Senate where Mayorkas. Or immigration. Have you seen any of it? Have you actually?
I've seen bits and pieces of stuff.
Like Senator Josh Hawley's question.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that. Yes.
Okay. The idea being that they're questioning what, if anything, we're doing to stop the migration, the illegal migration at the Mexican-American border. Yeah. And the man Mayorkas, who's the director, right? Sits there with a straight face, doesn't generally answer the questions in detail. He just says, our borders are safe.
Right.
We're not seeing big levels of. Meanwhile, there's video playing on the other half of the screen of people just mass. Yep. I don't know how we're dealing with it down there. I don't know how our immigration officials, God bless us, people on the ground.
I don't understand it. I don't get it. But
this man is. It's a comedy show. Like he goes up there and says it's like he's living in a different parallel universe, and one network is calling him out on it, the conservative network, and I'll tell you that the other networks, whether you consider them moderate, liberal, whatever, they're just not calling him out. Now, I noticed that some Democrats and liberal-minded people are starting to be alarmed by it. Now, it's starting to be an issue, like we see other issues where they're being sent across the country. They're causing problems for certain big cities that were, I think they were sanctuary cities.
Yeah.
How'd that work out? But ultimately, this man, to me, if I've ever seen a person in politics of any office that should absolutely be impeached, if possible, or be removed.
How's he not fired? Yes. Correct.
Of any politician in my entire lifetime. And it isn't a matter of I like him or don't like him. I don't even know what the man's personal politics are outside of who appointed him there. But he is derelict at the job. And you can carry it a step further. Carry it a step further. So many of political enemies look to try to impeach people now for all kinds of things, all kinds of reasons. Sometimes they go personal.
Yes.
Get it. I'm not saying that impeachments aren't valid. Some are, some aren't. I don't care about that. The thing that I look at Biden right now in regards to potential impeachment for me is from my 100-mile view in, I would imagine having an unchecked border and just basically open migration, right? Illegal migration. That should be enough of a security risk that he and his actions or non-actions are putting America's security at risk, and has done it for 3 years. So what I'm saying is that not that issue alone?
Like, why is he still here? Like, my whole point is, why is
I'm talking about impeachment for the president of the United States.
Well, yeah, okay.
I would use that issue alone about the security of the United States, because we don't know who's coming in. To me, that's a wanton. You are literally, through your carelessness or your abject refusal to monitor who comes into the country. That is I have to say it. That's a military risk.
Well, but again, I don't know the whole impeachment process well enough to know if that's an impeachable offense, because is he someone? I don't know. Because I don't know. Like, how does that reporting structure work? Does DHS report directly to the president, or they report directly to Congress? Like, I don't know. That's the separation of powers. Like, I don't know enough to say, yes, that is. Do I believe it's fucking terrible? Like, put it simply, like, if I am the manager at Sheetz, and I have an employee that's my security guard at Sheetz, and I have video of people just going in the store and taking whatever the fuck they want and leaving. And he's like, well, we're secure. It's secure. I'm like, well, there's this video. We should both be fired. I agree with that. Like, he's under my charge.
Right.
I should be fired. He should be fired. Like, that's what's happening. The question is, I don't know whose direct charge he's under. I get it. The president is in charge of everything, but there is that whole separation part. I don't know enough to say whether that rises to the level of what a president can be impeached for. I don't know. If it is something, then I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, all the Hunter Biden stuff and all that stuff. I'm not invalidating any of that stuff, but I'm saying this right here is
national security.
National security.
Yeah, it's a national security,
especially in light of what's going on in the world right now.
Correct. I mean, you have videos of people just coming across the. Like, I'm not saying like let people in legally. Like, just follow the process. Like, because are you really a country if you don't have secure borders? No,
we're not. You're not.
That's what I'm saying. Like, any other country to get into, like, I can't just walk across swim across fucking Lake Michigan into Canada. Like, you can't do it, right? You can't do it. Like, I can't do that. I can't just walk into Mexico, right? There's a process to get in. Like, why don't we have that back towards us?
So you have to ask the average person who looks at this, and if you see nothing bad, then you are a globalist and you believe in open borders. That's a philosophy that's out there. I mean,
sure.
If that's what you believe, then you're not part of this conversation. I get it, it's your belief. But if you look at that and think there's something wrong, you have to ask yourself, okay, the powers that be, who has the power now, is permitting this to happen, and you unwind it. Why is that happening? What's the reason? Because there's reason for everything. Bingo. I would agree with that too. It's like we get them here, we do as much as we can for them to buy their allegiance. We get them registered.
We don't have voter ID.
We don't have. Yes, there's no voter ID.
Right. It's simple. It's simple fucking math. Yeah. If you can't see that, you just don't want to see.
Well, and I've tried hard to try to find other reasons why this is happening, and I can't find one. The only thing it comes down to me is increasing the population. And increasing the population in a way that new potential voters are going to be helped by the government to get here, and then casually reminded once they're here of that help to buy the vote.
Yeah, there's no other logical reason, right? Okay, empathy. Okay, cool. Let them. We're not saying they can't come in. Follow the process. If you want to come to America, follow the process, right? You can't use empathy or helping people. Like, I get children they don't choose their situation. I get that. Like, I understand the argument for children, right? Like, if there's, and again, I don't know how you would figure that out, but I understand, like, some children just they're not giving a choice. Like, they're born into a situation that's terrible, and if we can help them and save them, like, I believe in that. But people are just coming across the border illegally just for the fuck of it. Like, what are we doing as a country?
So is the argument that the illegal aliens, the migrants, they come here, and then they have a child, and the child's born here, so the child has American rights?
Citizenships, yeah.
And see, that we shouldn't have that.
Right. What I'm saying is, like, children that are already born and coming into the country, like, to get them out of a terrible situation.
Well, we have a process for that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I understand that a little bit better.
Certainly, I do too.
But
if you're persecuted,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I just think to me, it shouldn't be hard to secure the border. Like, I've watched a lot of, like, even a lot of the liberal media now have said, like, whether I can't remember who I was watching recently, but they kind of went through Trump and they said didn't like the guy at all, but looking back, the wall worked. These policies worked. Like you cannot kill the message. You cannot kill the message because you don't like the messenger. No. And that was the whole point. I can't remember who said it, but it was a very powerful talk. And the whole premise of the talk, it was about Trump and the great policies he's had. He said, but the problem was we killed the message because we didn't like the messenger. The messenger had meaning, or the message had meaning, but because we didn't like the messenger, we killed the message.
So were people just not sophisticated enough at the time to rationalize
Trump derangement syndrome? That's what it was.
Okay.
That's what this whole thing was talking about. He's like, the Trump derangement syndrome was truly about killing the message because we didn't like the message.
And that's what I did not like about the Biden administration when they came in, because they missed an opportunity. And the opportunity was to look at what the predecessor had done from a legislative standpoint.
Yeah, right.
You can hate the man all you want.
Correct.
But evaluate what was working. But there was a quick rush, it seemed to me, to toss everything out. If Trump was going left on this, we're going to go right. We're not going to figure out if left was working. We're just going to go right, because that's just the way we're going to do the opposite.
Because you understand why they did that, though.
But that's such a
they were playing
elementary way to
they were catering to their voter base. The people that had Trump derangement syndrome did not care about the policies. They cared about whatever the man did is bad. And so they're like, yeah, we agree. We're going to do the opposite of what he did. Like,
it's like that Seinfeld episode where George Costanza does the opposit, because nothing he tries to do.
It's like if Trump was throwing water on a fire, like, nope, that was terrible. Let's throw gas on it. Like, we're just going to do that. That'll help. That's what happened. I feel like.
No, I mean, I think there's enough proof now that a point where it just, it really is supposed to be about policies put in place.
Yeah,
that's what they're there for.
Right, but is that really what politics are about anymore?
No, you can make an argument. Some people might have some credence when they say it's about personal destruction.
Yeah, I mean, it's not far off. I would
way to get rich, way to hurt other people.
When you have a lot of these
enjoy some power,
like that. I don't know if you saw some of the talks or some of the talking points recently about the speaker Mike Johnson.
Yeah,
they were saying like how like people are like giving him shit because he like lives paycheck to paycheck. It's like, well, he's a fucking politician. Like he's not supposed to be a gazillionaire. Like, I mean, what do you expect? Like, he's not. They're not. I mean, they make good money. Don't get me wrong, as a politician, but they're like, well, he doesn't have like how are we going to put this guy in charge? Like he doesn't even have savings, and he's okay. Like,
I wish more than
he's a public servant. He's a public servant. Like what? Like, and that's the problem. Like we have this perception that like these politicians should be rich and wealthy. I think public servants.
I think it goes to the broader picture that we just have a very unrealistic view of quote unquote notoriety or celebrity.
Oh, it's also true. Absolutely. 100%.
And we lump our politicians in, and we have now for a couple decades.
Yeah.
With our celebrities.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
We elevate their prestige in society instead of respecting and having prestige with the office, like we were talking about, in the 60s and 70s, and having a little I don't know, like decorum, prestige of the idea of the president and the vice president and the president's wife, first lady. It was about the office. It wasn't about the people.
Yeah.
And now I think it's about the people.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I do think it is a lot about the people now. It's not necessarily
about forgot about the office.
Yeah, it's like who's the best? Exactly. Who's the person that we're going to put in place?
All right, so it was a light. I mean, to me, it seemed like a light news week.
Yeah, it was Thanksgiving, man. It was,
I guess, yeah, it was Thanksgiving.
It was Thanksgiving. Black Friday shopping. Come on, all the fun stuff. I bought a lot of stupid shit over the weekend, randomly. Which
well, yeah. Were you on Amazon?
Listen, man, I have boxes come. I bought a treadmill underneath my desk.
Of course you were.
I can't wait till everybody sees next week when it comes in.
Are you on this new one called Temu?
No, I see it all the time. But I was literally just buying the most. I'm like, this is a great deal. Like the most random shit. But I'm like, that's Black Friday. I mean, I am fucking a sucker. I'm like, this. Yes, I need this. I literally bought a treadmill for underneath my desk.
But you have a treadmill.
I have a bike.
You bought a what?
Like a little walking pad for underneath your desk. I figured like I sometimes stand at my desk and I would walk.
Yeah.
This is what I'm telling
I
myself.
have a standing desk.
This is what I'm telling myself right now. So it's
I never thought about like a treadmill, but I have a standing desk.
It was like $200. It was on sale. It was great.
Sure, it was.
It was. I even bought a new thing for our new podcast, like a stand-up touch screen. It's actually pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. And it was on sale. I'm like, I need this. It's like a touch. It's like a big, like 32-inch touch screen that you can turn. You can use it like as a backdrop for our podcast. So it's actually gonna be pretty cool. You can use it in the office. So I think that will be useful. But I did buy a lot of other random boxes that have come in, and
Rocco keeps his, he does his part to keep the commerce rolling in the country.
I do. I work a lot, and Black Friday just gets me, man.
All right, so broader. We always end the show with a more I don't know, philosophical question per se, but we've bounced around on this show for a long time. The idea of do people think about their own personal philosophy?
Okay.
And I kind of had an epiphany over the holiday, listening to people talk about personal philosophy and the concept of happiness.
Okay.
And I think I might have been asking the wrong question all along. I think maybe asking people about their own personal philosophy, have they thought about it? Do they understand it? Have they created one?
Okay.
Maybe it's not the right question. Maybe it should be more elemental. And maybe on this show, we should start with maybe exploring the concept of happiness in general. Do people understand what they define as happiness, and then try to relate that to where they are currently in their life?
That is a great question, because I think that is probably the most important question you can answer in life is, how do you define happiness? Right. Like, like I've said before, like happiness isn't the destination, it's the road. Like it truly is. Like I because I used to, when I was younger, I thought like happiness meant achieving certain things, getting to a certain point in life, making a certain amount of money, having certain things, but that's how, when you're young, like that's how your mind's wired, right? It's like, once I got this car, once I had this job or started this business or did this, like I'm going to be even happier. Then you just take a step back and like, wait a minute, like I'm happy. Like I'm just enjoying, like you have ups and downs, right? But when you just embrace life as it comes and just be in the moment, instead of worrying about, I have to be happy or I have to be this, just be and feel it all and embrace it all. Like there are days where I'm stressed. There are days where I'm afraid. There are days that are totally joyful and amazing, and you just feel it all. And when you can understand that, like that's really what happiness is, just feeling and embracing life. To me, like that is the ultimate, that to me is the ultimate sense of peace in life. When you can understand, like I feel like I'm not fully there yet, but I feel like I'm really starting to understand that about life. Like it really is just about being in the moment.
It has to be,
and that's what happiness is. It doesn't have to mean I have to like have this emotion of happiness. It's just I'm here in this moment right now, experiencing it. Whatever the emotion is, it is,
and you're recognizing it.
Exactly. And that to me is when you can understand that about life and not get caught up in all the bullshit.
How much does age play that into that?
I think a lot. I think that does come with age. I think it comes with wisdom, and I think, but I think people now, I think, develop that wisdom a lot faster than we probably did, because there's just more access to information. So I think if I was a 20-year-old right now, I think I'd have this figured out by 30. Instead of by 46. I think you just the speed, or the speed quickens to get to that point. But I really think that's what it is. Like I think we get too caught up in thinking it has to be something, it has to feel a certain way, it has to equate to a thing or a place or a destination. Happiness just is. And it sounds esoteric and it sounds very like new age-ish, but it really is. Happiness is just being in it all. Like waking up every day, putting your feet on the ground and saying, today I'm going to embrace it all.
To me, to get to that point, I have to immerse myself in the concept of being grateful.
Absolutely.
If I get to where I recognize that I'm grateful, I think then I can let the happiness in. And it's not easy all the time.
Yeah.
I will tell you. I'll be the first to admit it. But
being
grateful.
Huge.
Yeah, when you were on this podcast a long time ago, you said a lot of things. And one of the things that you said always stuck with me. And it wasn't that I heard it from you first, but I hadn't heard it in a long time. You said that you try the best you can when it's possible to look at life in a way that when something is hard or difficult, or you're getting ready to head into a challenge, instead of looking at it from a negative standpoint, you always look at it as like, I get the opportunity to do this.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
It will almost, in a snap of the finger, change your mentality.
That's it.
And that's always stuck with me. It's hard to always get there. Our emotions are so overpowering at times.
Like there are days where I'm like, I got so much stuff to do. Like, but no, I get to do all this stuff. Like I get to work the way I want to. I get to work with these clients. I get to fix these problems. I get to embrace these challenges. Like once you flip that switch, and truly, it's really about changing your language, like changing the programming in your head. Like that's what it starts with. That the book I read is what's it called? What We Say When We Talk to Ourselves. Like that's a great book. It's talking about how your brain is truly a computer, and what we say to ourselves is the software, the programming, and that's really when it started clicking for me. It's like, okay, I just got to change the way I'm talking to myself. Instead of saying I have to work out, I get to work out.
Oh, words are powerful.
I get to wake up at 4:30 and start my day. Like I don't have to. I get to.
Right.
And once you start telling yourself that, and it takes repetition, right? It takes repetition to rewire your brain. But once you rewire it, then everything changes. Then it's like, fuck, like, yeah, like I can, yes, I get to do all of this shit. Like I get to sit here with you on a Tuesday night at 7:30 and talk about shit on social media. Like I get to do this. I don't have to. I get to do it. Then I get to wake up tomorrow morning at 4:30, start my day, go to the office, work with amazing people, have a great day, ups and downs all the time. But I get to do it. Right. And it's just changing that script in your head.
Well, what we tell ourselves is every bit as important, if not more important, than what we tell others. I mean, I think we spend so much time crafting our delivery and presentations and tough conversations with family and friends, and always trying to articulate the correct way. I know I spent lots of my life making sure I could articulate the right message, but then I would talk to myself like I was a piece of shit.
Exactly.
You know, and you really, it's an eye opener when you sit back and look at it.
Yep.
The phrasing matters probably more to yourself than it does what you send out into the world.
I watched it. This was a video a few years ago. I watched. I don't know the guy's name, but it was. I'm going to misquote him, but it was the premise of it was he was talking about. He's like, you know, when I speak to friends, like, you know, I'm very cognizant of how I speak to them, like, you know, but then when I speak to myself, I'm like, you idiot, why'd you do that? You're a moron. He's like, then I started telling myself, like, if I said that to my friends, I would have no relationship.
Exactly.
And the most important relationship you have is with yourself.
Absolutely.
And I was like, fuck, like that's powerful. Like the most important relationship we have is with ourselves. And we don't think about that a lot. I mean, when do you really think about that? Like we think, you know, our spouse, our kids, our parents, our friends, our colleagues, like those are relations. But the most important one is the one we have with ourselves, because how we talk to ourselves changes everything, impacts everything. And for some reason, when that gentleman articulated that in that video, I was like, man, like that is so true. And I never thought about it that, like, I knew about the programming of your brain, but I never thought about it from the perspective of I have a relationship with myself, and that is the most important relationship I will ever have, because I live with myself. I talk to myself every single day.
That's right.
And it's just like, wow, like that's a powerful thing. And once you understand it and really start utilizing it differently, it changes everything.
Yeah, I mean, I would make the argument that you're really out of balance if you're treating others in a good, positive way, and you're trying to craft, whether it's your persona or what you do for others, and you turn around and treat yourself terribly. Yeah. I mean, you're going to be out of balance. Yeah, and vice versa. If you're so self-centric and your egos, you know, and you're living in your id, right, and you treat everybody else like shit, you're not out of balance too.
Yeah. Well, I never understood, like, when I was younger, like hearing people say, "Oh, you got to love yourself." I'm like, what does that fucking mean? Like, love yourself? Like, that sounds so weird.
I think now it's like Catholicism, wasn't it?
But what I'm saying, like, but think about, like, when I'm thinking, like, when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, like, oh, you got to love yourself first. I'm like, what does that even mean? Yeah. I remember just thinking to myself, that sounds so stupid. Like, but now it's like that is the most important thing you have to do in life to truly be successful.
Sometimes it's hard because we live with our mistakes.
We are our worst critics. Like, I am my worst critic. I look at shit the other day. I'm like, and I stop myself before I say it. I'm like, because I'm very critical. Like, I am tolerant with others, but so hard on myself. Like, sometimes I'm more tolerant with others.
I think most high achievers,
and way harder on myself. Like, and it's something I always have to constantly work at. Like, it's It's a strong. Hopefully, it sounds
That's
like
right. We knew one of this coming.
Hopefully,
for you.
Thank you. But that's a struggle I deal with every day, and it's something that I think it's you once you learn to try and love yourself first and really be gracious to yourself.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be perfect at it, right? Because I want to be critical of myself, because that's how I get better. But I also have to understand how I talk to myself. Like, I can't say that was stupid, that was foolish. It was like, I made a mistake that I have to fix, or I didn't learn how to do this yet. Like, that's how I started talking to myself. And it's just that language changes there. It changes everything. Yeah. Like, I even try and tell my kids that, right? Like, I always say, don't say you can't do something. Say you can't do it yet. Because that when you say you can't do something, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy saying that you will never learn how to do it. Defeatist. Correct. When you say I can't do this yet, that means you just haven't learned how to do it. You still have the opportunity to. It's just a change of language.
Sometimes it puts you on a path right away, even when you're not thinking about it.
Exactly. It's just that subconscious programming is so important.
And so I think that maybe that idea of happiness, if we don't get that right, and what we think happiness is and how it relates to us, and are we moving in ways to make ourselves happy, if we're not living with that healthy, then the idea of having a personal philosophy, the complexity of that is not even, you can't entertain that at that moment, right?
I would agree with that. Absolutely. Happiness is simple, right? I think, but we have to figure, every person's happiness is different. Like, what makes you happy may not make me happy. Like, you like to walk outside for fucking hours. That's not going to make me happy. I'm going to be honest with you. Like,
in the cold.
But I will go home and get into a cold plunge on my back deck for 5 minutes. And that, I like that. Like, you won't do that. So, like,
you also lift an insane amount of weights over your head too.
Right. So. But I'm saying, like, but everybody has to understand, like, there's not a singular definition of happiness, right? I think people are looking for a definition. It's like, no, understand what your happiness is.
We're looking for other people sometimes to give us ideas to become happy, or we're going to do what they're doing and I'm going to be happy.
Yeah, that's not it. It's not it.
No, and I think that, and that's always been around, but I think because of the amount of media now, I think that we're seeing examples of all the things that other people say they're doing.
Yeah.
And maybe that's for me, and that's for me, and that's for me. Eventually, it'll make you neurotic.
Yeah.
You got to find it. And I guess it comes out of focus, right?
It's focus and self-reflection, right? Like, you have to really reflect on moments in your life, and what, like, really, you have to think through, like, when have you felt a certain way? When have you felt, like, to me, like, I had to really think about happiness, and that's why I said, like, happiness to me is just being. Like, once I got really comfortable just being present and not worrying about the past or the future, and just, thinking about it but not worrying about it, then it got really easy. Life got really simple. Like, I'm just here in the moment. Like, whatever's going to come, I'm going to take as it comes. And it makes problem solving easy. It makes being uncomfortable easy, because I've gotten so comfortable being in the moment I'm in that as things come, I'll just face it. I embrace it. And I think that gives me happiness, because I look at it as it doesn't make you invincible, but it gives you a level of clarity in life, in a level of sophisticated thought that I think helps you navigate the world a lot differently.
I had an uncle, wise man, Uncle Bernard. He used to say when I was younger, he says, you can't enjoy future. You can't enjoy future happiness.
Right. That's
meaning
so
that,
true.
Meaning that whatever you think is going to make you happy after you attain it or get it or achieve it or whatever, you can't enjoy future happiness. You have to find it where you're standing at the moment.
That's exactly right.
Never understood it until I was older, but it was pretty prophetic.
That is so. That is such a simple but
can't
profound,
enjoy future joy. Yes, you can't enjoy future happiness.
Yeah, that's a profound statement, because that is really true, right? Because it's the future. It's not here yet. It hasn't happened yet.
It may never happen,
right?
The way you imagine it.
Correct, exactly.
So just be present. Future joy, you can make the argument that's imaginary.
Exactly, it's made up.
Imaginary happiness, imaginary joy, and we have enough people living in their own imaginations. We don't need any more of that.
I took Laura down the quantum physics road last night.
Do tell.
Well, no, I was showing her a video on TikTok about the Mandela effect. She's like, what does that even mean? I'm like, well, I said, there's different timelines. She's like, I don't know what that means. I'm like, well, Eric told me it's like a loaf of bread and we move through it. I'm like, I can't really explain this. So we literally
that's not the Mandela effect.
Well, no, but I was talking about
like the time.
So we literally went on
static,
to, we went onto YouTube.
There's no future or past.
Right. I just typed in like quantum mechanics.
It's all there,
and
we're just moving through it.
Well, and what this one woman was saying, she's like, every possibility has happened. It's just
different plane.
Right. It's like
infinitesimal amounts.
Yeah. And it was just, I'm like, so yeah, like crazy stuff I want to do. That means it's already happened. We just decided not to do that. And it's just like, I was just watching her face. It's like her head was about to explode, because like mine was about to explode, like watching these videos. Because it's like, it's very interesting to me, because this Mandela effect, like like I watch
these videos,
see,
I'm like,
things
that you see, you remember it a certain way.
Yeah. Like I thought Nelson Mandela died,
and so when you see great swaths of the public believes one thing, and in supposed reality, that didn't happen that way.
Yes. Like Sinbad was a genie in Shazam, I thought.
Just different. Well, there's just different
timelines. Different timelines.
Right. And are we jumping? You know,
that was it was.
But the idea, and again, I'm the furthest thing from a physicist. I just love this stuff. But the idea of like everything that's ever happened in the past and everything that is going to happen in the future is already there.
Yes. We just move into it.
We're just moving through it. Like let's say all of reality is a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
And we're in the middle, and we're just kind of like moving through it. Everything's still there.
Yeah.
We found a way to time travel back. Once we figure out the mechanics of that, there is something back there to go to. It's still there.
Well, yeah, the guy we were watching, he was talking about these different dimensions, and he's like, once you get to like a fifth dimension, you think it's basically like I'm above this room,
right?
And I see me standing here, me standing out there, me coming into the building. It's all happens at the same time. I can just now see it, and I'm like, like I thought this was a loaf of bread, but this makes sense too. Like it was just,
and that's where quantum mechanics comes in, and super string theory, and there's all these multiple dimensions, and it'll make your head explode, because we live in a 3D. We live in a 3D world,
right?
So even getting to the fourth dimension conceptually,
yes,
is impossible.
Well,
you can kind of like draw it on a piece of paper, but to get in there,
they were talking about like how to do it, and I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Like they're how to get to different dimensions, like how to just like think differently. I'm like, what in the actual fuck is happening?
Yeah, and I will close it on this. There is a famous movie from the 70s, and it's an educational type of movie.
Okay.
But I want to say, it's going to sound pretty bizarre, but it's about if the world was in 2D and not 3D, and they're living in flat world, where everything is like flat.
Okay.
And how they interact with all of a sudden something coming in from a third dimension. I don't know if it's called Flat World, and if somebody on here, and I will find it and send it to you.
Oh, please. Yeah.
But it's an interesting way to teach dimensions.
Okay.
But it was like a thing, and it's 70ish, so get ready for that.
It was crazy.
But I think it's called Flat World. But it's just, but once I watched that and hadn't watched it again, I kind of got it.
Yeah. I mean,
but once you get past the 3 dimension, you get into the fourth and fifth. It's just my mind just goes.
Yeah, it's like
that time thing is interesting, huh?
It was super interesting, and I was trying to explain it to Laura. I'm like, I can't
Flat land, I think it's called.
I was like, I don't know. I just know Eric said it's like a loaf of bread, and it's already here, and we're moving. I'm like, let's just look on YouTube, and
it's all there.
It was an interesting night.
The thing that'll actually break your brain is that
it's broken already.
The theory that every potentiality from movements.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Left or right with my hand right now, and if I go like this direction, a new plane starts.
That's what this guy was saying. He was like, every absolute potential has already occurred. It's just whatever you move into.
Right.
Is the timeline you go on.
Infinitesimal amount of realities.
Yes.
We're just stuck in this existing.
Right. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Yes, my head was going to explode.
It's bad you can't run into yourself in these multiple.
Well, that's
like,
I want to go back
movies about that
time and see like past me and be like, "What's up, dude? Like, don't do this stuff." Let me give you a couple pieces of advice. Just a few things like just do this, don't do this.
Well, we'll close this down. Rocco and I will be on a podcast soon with 2 guests, and we'll be talking about happiness, but we're also going to be talking about exactly what you just mentioned. If you could go back, and what would be the lessons that you would tell your younger self?
I got a bunch.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, friend.
Cool.
And I'm sure, hopefully, the world will stay at peace, and we'll all see you again.
Absolutely.
Next Wednesday, I think.
Yeah,
we may change the date, but we'll announce it early
on. Definitely.
Have a good night. Awesome.
Yeah, it was good.
It was great.